It was common knowledge that the four major empires were where human populations were the biggest. Meng Lei's desire to free the human slaves was no different from interfering with the three major empires' internal affairs. How would the three empires possibly agree to that? It went without saying what their responses were. The Thunder Titan Emperor, the Beast Emperor, and the Fairy Empress countenances turned incredibly awful-looking. While they had been furious at Meng Lei's impassioned speech earlier, they couldn't be bothered to do anything about it and had adopted a disinterested attitude at things that didn't concern them. It was none of their business, no matter what kind of trouble Meng Lei wanted to make in the Dragon God Empire. Yet he was actually clamoring about freeing the human slaves in their borders now. This move would completely uproot and destroy their empires. Envoys of the three major empires, please communicate my decision to your respective monarchs upon return. Meng Lei turned to the envoys and added, I want results within a month. Your Majesty. A valiant, heroic, and beautiful fairy with a sword fastened at her waist spoke up at this point. It was Regimental Commander Azhara from the Fairy Empire. She gazed straight at Meng Lei and said, The decision as to whether human slavery would be abolished or not is part of the Fairy Empire's internal affairs. Your Majesty has no right to interfere. I have no interest in the Fairy Empire's internal affairs. The only thing I'm concerned about is the human race. Meng Lei said dispassionately, The Meng Lei Empire is founded on the basis of the people, and our foundation is the humans themselves. Any matter that concerns the humans concerns the Meng Lei Empire. Your Majesty, forgive my impudence, Azhara said coldly. But the human population in Heaven's Vault continent is far vaster than just mere billions. You can only speak on behalf of the humans of the Meng Lei Empire, but you cannot represent the voices of all the humans on Heaven's Vault continent. Meng Lei was mildly taken aback. Seemingly rendered speechless by Azhara, he nodded slowly only after a brief moment. Then he said, Your words make sense. Indeed, I am only able to speak on behalf of the Meng Lei Empire's humans and cannot represent the humans living in other places. At his words, the envoys from the three empires breathed a small sigh of relief. However, what Meng Lei said after that instead unexpectedly made them jump from their seats. If I integrate the entire Heaven's Vault continent into the Meng Lei Empire's territory, would I then be able to represent the entire human race? How brilliant, Your Majesty! Your Majesty is right. Bubbles, Pohaman, and the others immediately sang his praises. After all, they couldn't wait to unify the continent. Be careful what you say, Your Majesty. Calamity comes through the mouth. His words caused Regimental Commander Azhara's countenance to change drastically. She said icily, Your Majesty, you're currently representing the Meng Lei Empire as you speak. Every word you utter represents the whole empire's will rather than your own. I hope Your Majesty can refrain from babbling nonsense. Otherwise, I will interpret what you've just said as a declaration of war on the whole continent, including on the other three major empires. A declaration of war on the whole continent? Meng Lei couldn't help but laugh. He said, Your words have reminded me that the humans were the masters of the continent right from the start, though. If humans are to take back everything that once belonged to us, so what even if we must declare war on the whole continent? Your Majesty, Azhara's expression turned icy cold. This is my second order. The Fairy Empire, the Titan Empire, and the Beast People Empire are to submit to the Meng Lei Empire at once. Meng Lei's voice was cold and aloof as he declared, Otherwise, everywhere the Meng Lei Empire's troops go, the country shall fall and the people perish. You're going too far. The Thunder Titan Emperor, the Fairy Empress, and the Beast Emperor flew into a thundering rage upon hearing his order. They hadn't expected Meng Lei to actually be this arrogant and presumptuous. By immediately ordering them to submit after the empire's founding, he clearly didn't think much of the three major empires. This was simply too much of him. Your Majesty, Azhara said coldly, You're too arrogant. Humph. Meng Lei let out a cold snort, following which a fearsome force then pressed down upon Azhara. She was flattened to the ground at once, as though thunderstruck. If you weren't the Fairy Empire envoy, you'd be a dead woman by now. A dispassionate Meng said, "Return and tell the fairy empress this. Withdraw from the fairy forest with the fairies and get the hell back to the goddess lakeside. Otherwise, I don't mind having the fairies follow in the footsteps of the dragons and become a thing of the past." "You bastard!" Azhara was both furious and embarrassed. Yet, no matter how hard she struggled, she simply couldn't resist the force. She could only lay flat on the ground helplessly, tormented by shame and humiliation. The same goes for the Titan Empire and the Beast People Empire. Meng turned to the Titan Empire and Beast People Empire envoys. "I've already said what I should have. It's your call whether or not you want to obey it." The war starts a month later, with Azhara serving as a lesson to them. Even though the two empires' envoys were infuriated and extremely spiteful, they could only grin and bear with it. That damned Horus! Why isn't he here yet? The Thunder Titan Emperor was gnashing his teeth in a fury. What exactly is that bastard doing? As though the heavens had heard the Thunder Titan Emperor's curses, a shrill was suddenly traveled over from the sky a great distance away. What's going on? Everyone turned and looked over to see a black dot shooting toward them at lightning-quick speed. That's... A huge shudder went through the Thunder Titan Emperor. The Beast Emperor, the Fairy Empress, as well as all the Saint Domain experts and half-deities also shuddered all over. "He's here. He's finally here. He's made us wait for too long. Master, it's probably Horus." Bubbles, Pahaman, Nadia, and the others all came forward and formed a protective barrier around Meng. All of them wore grave looks on their faces. "No need to be nervous." Meng gaze swept across the three empires' envoys with a slight smile on his face as he scoffed. "Those guys, especially the Titan Empire, are all treating Horus as a straw to clutch at, hoping that he can kill me and save them from their crises. Little do they know that the more they get their hopes up, the further they'll fall. With Horus cooperating with me as a supporting role in this show, the resistance I'll face in my quest to conquer the three great empires and unify Heaven's Vault continent shall be greatly reduced." "How wise, Master! He's near. He's near." As the black dot approached, the booming whizzing sounds also became shriller, louder, and increasingly sonorous. Gradually, the people could see clearer and clearer that a small and skinny figure riding on a greatsword was racing toward them. He wore a black cloak and had a small, short, and skinny physique, which was completely unlike the usual tall, burly physique of most titans. Neither was his body strongly built. In spite of that, no one dared to underestimate him. It wasn't just because he was Horus, but because his high speed alone could already leave innumerable people in the dust. Whoosh! Horus came to an abrupt stop upon reaching the summit of Mount Dragon God. "So, that's Horus? The one hailed as the most outstanding titan after breaking through to Saint Domain at 57 years old and breaking through the void and leaving Heaven's Vault continent 30,000 years ago? That's a historical figure. That's an old antique from 30,000 years ago." Everyone whispered among themselves as they watched Horus standing proudly in the sky. In their eyes were curiosity, anticipation, excitement, as well as unease. Everyone was feeling a complex mix of emotions. At this point, Horus opened his eyes slightly, his gaze sweeping across everyone present. For a moment there, the people felt a wave of pain that felt like jabbing needles coming from their eyes, and they couldn't help but shut their eyes in pain. "Such weak and frail mortals." Horus scoffed before he asked calmly, "Where's Meng? The young one?" "Be careful, Master," Bubbles hastily warned. "I can't tell how strong that guy is at all. You have to take absolute care." Pahaman also had a grave look on his face as he said, "That's right, Master. That guy is completely on a different level from the Dragon God just now. You have to take absolute caution." "Don't worry. I know what I'm doing." Meng waved them off. Then, he rose slowly into the air and went up to Horus. "So, you're Meng?" Horus looked over, his sharp, knife-like eyes gazing upon Meng. "The man himself," replied Meng calmly. "Little did I think that Heaven's Vault continent would birth someone like you 30,000 years later. Truly impressive." There was a hint of approving admiration on Horus's countenance. Then he said, But you shouldn't have challenged the great Titan spiritual god's authority. His wrath is not something you can withstand. Talents emerge from every generation in this world, and each of them excels in their own domain for years to come. Meng flicked his fingers as he remarked, "Didn't the Titan spiritual god also challenge the fairy goddess authority back when she was ruling Heaven's Vault continent? Don't forget that the fairy goddess was already a higher deity back then. Yet the Titan spiritual god had dared to challenge even her. On the other hand, I'm just challenging an intermediate deity's authority. Compared to him, it seems like I'm far more inferior. You sure know quite a lot, but it isn't necessarily a positive thing to be so knowledgeable. Sometimes it easily misleads one into making an incorrect judgment, causing one to throw away their lives for nothing." Horus said dispassionately, "Go on and attack. On account of your junior status, I'll allow you to make the first move, lest people accuse me of bullying someone younger." "How presumptuous! That guy's too arrogant. I'll see whether he still dares to behave so arrogantly when Master beats him up so badly that he's all but begging for mercy later. God damn it, he's as haughty as a pea brain. The sight of him pisses me off." Bubbles, Pohaman, and the others secretly broke into angry rants. They were extremely displeased with Horus's tone and choice of words that seemingly placed Meng at a lower position than him for nothing. The others didn't find anything wrong with that, though. Horus was a legendary titan from 30,000 years ago, as well as a peerless monster that had become a half-deity at 57 years old. Now that he had returned 30,000 years later, just how strong must he have become? So what even if he were a little wild and arrogant? Compared to him, Meng indeed was just a junior. What is Horus spouting so much superfluous crap for? Hurry and just cleave him apart with a knife. The Thunder Titan Emperor was rather impatient by now. "Allowing me to make the first move?" Meng lip corners quirked upward slightly as he remarked, "During the first time I stepped onto Dragon Island, that's exactly what those arrogant and conceited colossal dragon half-deities had said. In the end, only one of them managed to get away." "Is that so?" Horus raised an eyebrow. "During the second time I went up the Titan spiritual peak and battled the Titan Empire's temple half-deities. That's also what those burly titans had said." Meng shook his head and chuckled, somewhat non-committal to the statement. He said, "Among them were even existences older than you, but their outcomes were instead exceptionally tragic." "Are you comparing them to me?" Horus shook his head and laughed. "Be it the dragon half-deities or the temple half-deities, they are actually all the same as you. All of you are just frogs living in the tiny little well known as Heaven's Vault continent. Trapped in Heaven's Vault continent, all of you see the sky only from the bottom of the well and foolishly think highly of yourselves. How would you know just how big the world outside is when all you can do is only run about in this existential plane?" "Oh!" Meng raised an eyebrow. "Little fellow, the world outside is a vast one. Don't be mistaken that you can do whatever you want just because you've made a small achievement or two in this existential plane." Horus said dispassionately, "I'll give you one last chance and allow you to make the first move. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't even have the chance to attack." "Just as well, then. Since that's the case, then it would only be rude of me to decline any further." Whoosh! Murderous intent filled the Titan spiritual god's eyes. It had been eons since he had last been this furious. The last time he was angry had been 50,000 years ago when the dragon god emerged. During that time, the dragon god had led the colossal dragons to rise up and drove the titans to the Titan ranges, causing him to lose great numbers of worshippers. The Titan spiritual god had been incredibly furious over this, but there was nothing he could do. All he could do was to watch helplessly as the dragon god unified the continent, gathered vast amounts of power of faith, and deified. But the Titan spiritual god would not be staying silent this time, because he had become a wealthy tycoon after receiving priority grooming from the Theodore clan of the Thunderbolt Divine Realm 20,000 years ago. He had 108 material planes under his control and had innumerable worshippers and an abundance of resources now. He had even groomed quite a few true gods. So why should he take it lying down? After Horus kills that mortal, he can then also destroy the beast people and the fairies along the way and unify Heaven's Vault continent. That continent shall once again become my power of faith domain. Elsewhere, in another remote and hidden divine nation, a muscular man with horns on his head and a stern, dignified countenance was also watching the happenings in heaven's vault continent. His countenance was sinister, and his eyes were spitting fire as though someone had owed him a few $1,000,000. He was the deity whom the dragon god empire had worshipped. The dragon god. That damned knave. And how lucky of Horus. The dragon god was in an awful mood. He watched the two figures standing proudly at the Mount Dragon God summit with not even a trace of positive feelings on his face at all. Meng versus Horus. No matter who the final victory went to, it was of no relevance to the dragon god at all. Regardless, he would still end up losing his power of faith domain known as the Dragon God Empire. That was his one and only power of faith domain. That damned mortal. I have to kill him. I have to. The dragon god was livid. If he could, he would rip Meng into 1,000,000 pieces. Wiping out the dragon island half-deities and overthrowing the dragon people nobles had thoroughly ruined him at the roots. It had caused his hopes of recapturing the Dragon God Empire to become incredibly distant and remote. It was no longer possible for him to take back the Dragon God Empire as a power of faith domain. This was especially true when he had been slaughtered alive by Meng in front of so many people just now. It was practically the greatest humiliation ever. He had been thoroughly embarrassed and more. I have to kill him. No matter what. I have to kill him. The dragon god gnashed his teeth in a fury. Better yet if neither side wins and all of them die. The dragon god's current frame of mind had even become rather warped. He hated Meng because Meng had seized his power of faith domain and caused him to thoroughly embarrass himself. He was also jealous of the Titan spiritual god. By what virtue did that all-brawn and no-brains fool deserve to receive a divine realm force's grooming for no reason whatsoever? He hated them. He was jealous of them. Yet all he could do was just watch on helplessly. On Mount Dragon God, be it the people of the Meng Empire, Meng worshippers, the three major empires' envoys, or the experts from each clan, everyone was watching the two figures in the sky with rapt attention. Such nervousness, such anticipation. Everyone knew this very well. This battle would determine the newly founded empire's future, decide the humans' fate, and even the entire Heaven's Vault continent's fate. Should Meng win, the humans would fully rise up and sweep through the entire continent with unstoppable momentum. It was highly likely that Heaven's Vault continent would be unified once more. Should Meng lose, the newly founded Meng Empire would be split up, taken over, and ripped into pieces by other parties. The humans would also be thrown back into their original plight and forced back into slavery. Therefore, this battle was of critical importance. Go for it, Your Majesty. Great God Meng you are unbeatable. You'll definitely beat the demons. Meng must die. Only when he's dead. Some prayed silently, some cursed him viciously, and some gloated over the situation. During this moment, where everyone's thoughts differed from one another, Meng made the first move. Since that's the case, then it would only be rude of me to decline any further. Whoosh! At once, Meng vanished on the spot. He bizarrely appeared right behind Horus the next instant. At the same time, the hammer of destruction also appeared in his hand, and he swung it ruthlessly toward Horus's head. Little fellow, teleportation might be a good skill, but it's useless against me. Horus reached out. He easily caught the hammer of destruction in his hand with a light grab. Then, with a forceful grip, a crack rang out, and the hammer of destruction was actually crushed into smithereens. Boom! Then, Horus's other hand clenched tightly into a fist and soundlessly appeared at Meng abdomen. Like a launched cannon, Meng was instantly sent flying. Master! Bubbles and the others' countenances changed drastically at the sight of that. Ha ha ha! Great! As expected of Horus, the legendary Titan. Well done! Well done! The Thunder Titan Emperor couldn't help but be thrilled at the sight. In this instant, all his previous worry and nervousness had turned into excitement. Crushing the hammer of destruction with just a grab. Sending Meng flying with just a punch. He had made 2 moves in a single instant and was fully suppressing Meng in every aspect, exhibiting overwhelming power. The two weren't on the same level at all. Doomed. Meng was doomed for sure. Your Majesty, that arrogant fellow isn't Horus's match. It's highly likely that he'll die at Horus's hands. What should we do? As Hara, the valiant fairy regimental commander, leaned over to the fairy empress and asked softly, "Do we save him?" The fairy empress didn't respond because she was currently very troubled. 2. Save him? Based on what Meng had said just now, saving him would be akin to saving a powerful enemy of the fairy empire. It was highly likely that he would declare a war potentially capable of wiping out the fairy empire on the fairy empire someday. But if they didn't save him, how were they supposed to answer to Her Holiness the fairy goddess? Then, let's watch for a little longer. The fairy empress sighed. She didn't have any better options at the moment either. "How are you, master?" asked Bubbles and the others worriedly as they surrounded Meng. "I'm fine." Meng waved slightly. Then he turned to Horus and said, "Looks like I've underestimated you. You're stronger than what I had imagined. And you're weaker than what I had imagined. I'm rather disappointed. Looks like the so-called number 1 of Heaven's Vault continent is nothing more than this." Horus shook his head lightly as he remarked, "I guess that's true. You're ultimately a hothouse flower after all. How can you possibly match up to the geniuses and monsters of the outside world? I'm actually being looked down upon." Meng tossed away the hammer in his hand and said, "If I still don't show some prowess after this, I'm probably going to be mocked by you, a senior who's seen the world again." Meng twisted his neck from side to side as he spoke. The aura around him also changed in this instant and became cold, distant, bloodthirsty, and razor-sharp. "Eh?" Horus's sharp senses captured the change in Meng demeanor, and it mildly surprised him. Whoosh! An afterimage flashed by, and Meng appeared in front of Horus once more. His fists shot toward him like lightning, instantly smashing toward Horus's face. "It's useless." Horus shook his head slightly, casually reaching out a finger to meet Meng attack. "Your reaction is too slow this time, Horus." Meng abruptly appeared behind Horus, his fist going along with the momentum and striking the back of Horus's head. Horus stumbled forward and almost fell flat on his face. "How's that fist of mine feeling, Elder Horus, who's seen the vast world out there?" asked Meng as the corners of his lips quirked upward into a hint of a smile. "2-step teleportation? Certainly a clever little move there." Horus stabilized himself, and his eyes narrowed as he swept his gaze toward Meng. "But you're still too weak. You can't hurt me at all. Is that so?" Meng let out a soft chuckle as 8 arms suddenly extended from his body. Added to this the 2 arms he already had, which made a total of 10 arms on him. "If I can't hurt you with 1 punch, then how about 10? 1-step teleportation, 2-step teleportation, 3-step teleportation." Horus's reaction time was undoubtedly incredible, but it was ultimately still half a beat too slow when faced with 3-step teleportation, and this was Meng opportunity. He threw a punch out. Bam, bam, bam. At that instant, Meng brought out to the fullest the Wing Chun one-chain thrusting fist that he had been practicing for many years. Amid a series of continuous audible clashes, all 10 of Meng fists turned into mirage-like images that rained down upon Horus in one go. Oh, everyone was completely stunned by the sight. Was that even viable? Damn it! Only after suffering 100,000 punches did Horus finally regain his senses, and he hastily retreated with a burst of speed. At this point, he was already sporting bruises on the face and bleeding from the nose. Evidently, he had been beaten up pretty badly. Meng couldn't help but gasp at the sight. What high endurance and toughness! To think he's actually all right even after taking so many punches from me. He had already unleashed his humanoid form's full strength just now and threw 100,000 punches in one go, yet Horus had only suffered a few superficial wounds. Just how tough and durable was he? "You cunning little fellow! You've enraged me!" Horus wiped the blood off his nose, fire spitting from his eyes. He was a senior who had adventured in the outside world for many years and weathered through many great storms, yet he had been beaten up to such a state by a junior. How was he supposed to face the world? "I'm going to rip you into 1,000,000 pieces." Horus roared furiously as his body expanded with a big and sudden force. Boom, boom, boom. For a moment there, his body rapidly expanded as though he were an inflating balloon. In an instant, he had become a giant as tall as 1,000 feet. Boom! Vast, majestic, and fearsome divine power overflowed from him and spread into the surroundings. Ah! His 1,000 feet tall divine body couldn't compare to the 100,000 feet long dragon god and the 100,000 feet tall bubbles from earlier at all. Yet the surging divine power emanating from him was able to flatten all the commoners and worshippers at the foot of the mountain onto the ground, rendering them completely immobile. Beads of perspiration formed on the Saint Domain experts and half-deities' foreheads. Even breathing had become a difficult task for them now. An incredibly shocked and horrified half-deity said, "What terrifying divine power! This has completely surpassed a half-deity's level. It's much stronger than the dragon gods just now." Keet. Horus raised his huge foot and stomped down mercilessly on Meng. By right, now that his body had expanded, his speed should also have been greatly reduced. However, the strange thing was that Horus's speed had instead become even faster. His foot completely stomped onto Meng before also ruthlessly stomping down onto Mount Dragon God's summit. "How dare you step on me? In that case, I won't show you any civility anymore." Meng let out an icy laugh and brought out the god-slaying spear with a flip of his wrist. He thrust it up forcefully as he barked, "Block!" As of this moment, Meng still didn't know what grade of divine weapon the god-slaying spear was, but its sharpness continued to blow his mind. Splurt! The god-slaying spear easily pierced Horus's soul, jabbing a bloody hole into his foot. Horus cried out and hurriedly retracted his foot. "What a great treasure!" Meng rose into the sky. He gazed at Horus and commented, "You don't seem like much either, Horus. What kind of divine weapon is that, kid?" Horus's eyes bore into the god-slaying spear. "Aren't you very knowledgeable? Why don't you try identifying it?" Then, Meng flung off the golden divine blood on the god-slaying spear's tip and gave him a leisurely smile. "Ridiculous! Just how many divine weapons are out there in the world? How can I possibly know every single one?" Horus retorted with a cold snort. Graveness and reservations filled his eyes as he gazed at the god-slaying spear. Although he was only a true god of perfection level, he'd already awakened his Titan god bloodline, so his divine body was on par with the lesser deities. Even so, the god-slaying spear had nevertheless still instantly pierced through his flesh. This sufficiently proved that the divine spear was at least a mid-tier divine weapon, perhaps even higher. It's all right if you don't recognize the god-slaying spear, but there's one divine weapon that you'll definitely recognize. A strange and peculiar smile appeared on Meng face. Then, a blood-red scythe appeared in his hand. The Grim Reaper Scythe. One, a traditional southern Chinese kung fu style and a form of self-defense. Chapter 263 took turns beating up. Life's too difficult for him. In its divine kingdom, the Titan spiritual god gazed as the scythe appeared abruptly. His countenance changed instantly. How did this knave get the Grim Reaper Scythe? The Grim Reaper Scythe was no ordinary divine weapon. It was what the Grim Reaper used to reap and sacrifice souls. It was evil, terrifying, bloodthirsty, powerful. Every scythe was at least a higher-tier divine weapon. A higher-tier divine weapon, the kind that even a wealthy intermediate deity like Titan spiritual god was envious of. The key point was that the Grim Reaper Scythe was the Grim Reaper's companion divine weapon. Where did that Grim Reaper Scythe come from? Perhaps he was part of the death gods? The Grim Reaper Scythe. Why do you have this evil weapon? Horus's countenance changed as his eyes fixated on the scythe were filled with dread. That was a higher-tier divine weapon that could kill him by slicing him up like cutting cabbages. His divine body could not take it. The Grim Reaper Scythe is the companion divine weapon of the Grim Reaper. Meng licked his lips and lied casually. "So where do you think I got it from?" This means Horus's expression changed greatly. You've guessed right. Now let me reward you with a slice, Meng said as he teleported in front of him. Splurt. The Grim Reaper scythe chopped down and sliced Horus's body like a kitchen knife on being curd, easily slicing open a 2-meter wound. A sharp pain coursed through his body as Horus looked at his bleeding abdomen and gasped. I'd expect no less from the Grim Reaper scythe. So sharp. Of course it's sharp. I killed a true god-level ram-lion demon lord forcibly 2 years ago with this. Meng laughed faintly. And you'll be the first god I chop dead. Chop me dead. Horus's eyelid twitched a few times. He said with a cold voice, then we'll see whether you are capable of it. Divine Kingdom Suppression. Buzz. A huge hologram of a golden divine kingdom appeared above Meng head, and massive amounts of divine kingdom power shrouded Meng within. Buzz. At this moment, Meng felt like he was stuck in a mud pit. Pressure came from everywhere as it squeezed against his body, as if hundreds of millions of tons of weight were on him, while he could barely move. Oh little kid, why are true gods different from half-deities? It's because of our divine kingdoms, Horus sneered. The divine kingdom is the most powerful trump card of true gods. True gods are the most powerful in their divine kingdoms. Even if they are away from it, they could use the power of divine kingdoms to suppress their enemies. The power of divine kingdom. Meng looked at the golden power of the divine kingdom above him inexplicably. Little kid, you're indeed really incredible with unbelievable luck. Still, if you did not become a true god, how would you know our true terrifying power? Horus snapped. Let me tell you something. Do not underestimate any true god. With that said, Horus threw a punch toward Meng this time with full force. Meng was a threat to his life, and he did not dare to relax anymore. Horus believed that with his lesser deity level of the divine body, his punch with full power would definitely break Meng apart, killing him on the scene. However, just as it was about to hit Meng exploded into countless microelectrical currents that flew around in the air. Horus's body stumbled a little as he hit nothing, while the microelectrical currents combined instantly and transformed back into Meng Meng wielded his Grim Reaper scythe. Horus's right arm shot into the sky with a splurt as it split from the body. What? Upon seeing this sudden change, the spectators were shocked. At the moment before, Meng was suppressed by the divine kingdom and could not move at all. Horus had that much advantage just now. Yet, at the very next moment, how did this happen? He did not just miss Meng but he actually got his right arm cut off by Meng. That was way too fast. That was Thunder Elemental Transformation. Horus held his bloodied shoulder as he grimaced in pain with a look of disbelief toward Meng. Bingo! Sadly no prizes for you. Meng swung the Grim Reaper scythe as blood drops streamed down the ground. I did not expect you to have such ability. Horus had an awful look on his face. But, if you think you can defeat me like that, then you're wrong big time. No, I had never thought of defeating you. Meng took a step forward and flashed before Horus. Since the beginning, I had only one objective: to kill you. Whoosh! Meng exploded without warning and turned into a menacing black smoke that went through Horus's body. Meng reformed his body and swung his scythe. Splurt! This time, the left arm was sliced off. For a while, with both arms chopped off, Horus became a stick. Golden divine blood gushed out of his severed shoulders. Dark Elemental Transformation? Blood drained from Horus's face as he was finally frightened. You could actually master 2 elemental abilities. What kind of monster are you? Where was I? Meng smiled leisurely. It's rare to meet such a strong opponent. So next, I'll use every trick I have on you. With that said, a 100,000 feet tall mountain appeared above Horus abruptly and crashed down toward him. It was teleportation this time. Snap! The mountain crashed onto Horus's body, and it shattered instantly. As the mountain drowned Horus, Meng pointed his finger. A golden air current flew out and flooded Horus and the shattered mountain in a flash. It was absolute zero this time. Snap! Snap! In a blink of an eye, Horus and the mountain debris became a huge golden ice lump. An astonishing cold air spread around. Though the crowd was quite far from the battleground, they could feel the chill down their whole bodies. Until now, Meng had no plans to let Horus off. The netherworld divine fire formed in his palm and turned into a black spear. It was the netherworld divine fire this time. 1, 2, 3. Meng counted slowly. Boom! A thunderous roar was heard as the huge ice lump exploded off. Horus reappeared. Just then, the loaded black spear shot out. Thud! The black spear was made up of netherworld divine fire after all, so its sharpness was unlike God-slaying spear and grim reaper scythe and did not penetrate Horus's divine body. Still, it exploded on Horus's body and started burning. Horus's entire body was burning in the flames of the netherworld divine fire in just a split second. Damn it! It's the netherworld divine fire! Horus was shocked and outraged as he almost broke down. Everyone who was watching the battle gave their pitiful gazes. Sliced by the scythe, frozen by ice, and now getting burned by fire. Too difficult. That was too difficult for him. You bastard! In his divine kingdom, the Titan spiritual god's eyelids twitched uncontrollably. He was starting to regret sending Horus to Heaven's vault continent. Being beaten up was one thing, being tortured like that was the key thing. That was simply bullying. Teleportation, thunder elemental transformation, dark elemental transformation, grim reaper scythe, that spear, and now netherworld divine fire? What kind of mortal is this man? Why did he possess so many unbelievable innate special abilities and high-tier divine weapons? The Titan spiritual god simply could not understand why. Ignoring the divine weapons since they could be obtained through having connections and background, innate special abilities could not be obtained so simply like that. Elemental transformation, the exclusive innate special ability of elemental beings. How did a mere human like Meng have it? Teleportation, the extremely rare innate special ability that the Titan spiritual god had only heard of but never seen with his own eyes. Netherworld divine fire, the exclusive special ability of the divine netherworld phoenix. Meng was just a human. How could he be able to use the netherworld divine fire? Just how? Just why? This human is a mystery himself. I just couldn't see through his background. The Titan spiritual god did not like things to get out of control under his nose because it made him feel that he was not powerful enough. The netherworld divine fire. Could he be a part of the divine netherworld phoenix race? The dragon god's countenance was rather contorted. Although he did not want to admit it, he was jealous. What kind of presence was the divine netherworld phoenix race? It was an incredibly powerful race that would not pale in comparison with the Titan gods. Plus, they had a diluted bloodline which made them so rare. The dragon god could imagine that once the divine netherworld phoenix discovered Meng, they would surely bring Meng back to be groomed with priority. Till then, the number of resources that Meng could enjoy would surely be no less than that of the Titan spiritual god. Till then, with the vast amount of power of faith and resources, Meng combat power would surely improve very quickly and overtake the dragon god in no time. You bastard! At the thought of these, the dragon god's jealousy was off the charts. The dragon gods were not weak. In fact, they were very powerful in the void. The thing was that the dragon god's race was so selfish and strict that they only groomed offspring with the pure bloodline. Those with a mixed bloodline and born as lowly wild dragons in the material plane like him would never get the chance to be groomed by the elders. I'm so damn jealous. The dragon god's eyes were red. Once he met the everlasting flames of the netherworld divine fire, even Horus could do nothing about it and could only suffer in pain. As I've said before, the ending will always be the same. Meng walked step by step toward Horus. The Dragon Island half-deities, the Titan half-deities, or you are all the same in my eyes. Human. I have underestimated you. Horus was a warrior as he did not make any noises with flames burning all over him. I might die without regrets, but Master Spiritual God will avenge me. Avenge? Then let him come. Meng puffed. Since we have beef already, I don't care at all. Horus did not say anything as he closed his eyes slowly and allowed the netherworld divine fire to ravage his body, poised like he was about to sacrifice himself. Not bad. You're hardy. Meng could not help but praise. How about this? I'll give you a chance. As long as you submit to me, I can spare your life. How about that? I'm the great Horus. How could I submit to a junior? Oh well, whatever suits you. Chapter 264 Abandoned by the Deities. Submitting by one's own initiative. He had come in a hurry and was also gone in a hurry. His death caused a large number of people to feel as if they had plummeted into an ice cave. Their hands and feet were cold and clammy as endless fear and hopelessness came over them. It felt no different from the entire sky collapsing unto them. Among them, the Thunder Titan Emperor was one who felt it the strongest. No hint of blood could be seen in the Titan Empire's ruler's countenance at the moment. As if he had been drained of strength, he fell limp onto the ground. It's over. The Titan Empire is totally over. The Beast Emperor felt just as hopeless. Even an unfathomably powerful true god like Horus had been so badly beaten up by Meng in a one-sided fight. How were they, the Beast People Empire, supposed to contend with Meng? By relying on the Beast God. Was he dependable enough? The Beast Emperor didn't hold any bit of confidence in that. His thoughts were currently a mess, and he was in a state of utter stupefaction. Great skill and strategy. Unifying the continent. Emergence of the empire. Everything had been tossed to the back of the mind. At the moment, the Beast Emperor wanted only to leave this place and have a quiet moment to himself so that he could properly think about how he was to resist Meng attacks. He's actually killed Horus. The Fairy Empress was just as filled with disbelief as the others. She knew that Meng was very strong. After all, he had annihilated the Dragon Island half-deities and battled the Titan half-deities by himself. His cultivation prowess was unfathomably powerful. Even so, never would the Fairy Empress have ever imagined Meng to actually be this strong. He could kill even a true god-level powerhouse like Horus. Just how strong is Meng exactly? The question couldn't help but arise in the Fairy Empress' mind. In truth, a lot of people were also wondering about this. However, there was no one who could answer their question. Not even Meng closest subordinates like Bubbles, Pohaman, and the others. Horus is dead. As he faced the shocked and horrified, idolizing, or hopeless eyes of everyone present, Meng spoke. He said, I believe the so-called Titan spiritual god, dragon god, and even the beast god will not be easily sending anyone else here now. So, Meng turned to the three empires' envoys and said, all of you should have lost all hope by now, right? Thus, I'm sure you don't need me to tell you what you should be doing anymore? Within a month, I want the three empires to submit to me. If I don't see that happening, my apologies, but the colossal dragons of yesterday shall be your fates tomorrow. After leaving behind those words, Meng returned to the dragon carriage and left together with Bubbles and the others. Everyone looked at one another wordlessly as they watched the departing dragon carriage. What do we do now, Your Majesty? You're asking me? Who am I supposed to ask? Then, Meng throne ascension ceremony had concluded, but the impact it had brought had only just begun. A declaration of the humans' emergence, ordering the three empires to submit, killing the dragon god and exterminating Horus. Every single incident, every single deed, like a tornado, they spread throughout the Meng Empire and even the entire continent. In particular, under the Meng Empire Imperial Court's deliberate promotion efforts, the news had spread even faster. His Majesty has said that in the Meng Empire, all humans below the age of 20 can undergo magic aptitude evaluation tests and receive battle aura manuals at no cost. His Majesty has also said that he'll build battle aura and magic academies in the Meng Empire. All children under the age of 16 can enroll at no cost and receive 6-year-long compulsory education. His Majesty has also said he will not levy any taxes, collect agricultural tax, or recruit any soldiers in the Meng Empire for 10 years. His Majesty has also said that every human in the Meng Empire will receive a plot of land measuring at least 2 square kilometers. His Majesty has also said that everyone is equal in the Meng Empire. There are no slaves, no nobles. Sob. Praise be to the great His Majesty. Your Majesty, praise be to you. Your Majesty. Meng vows were printed into booklets. They spread throughout streets and alleys, villages, and every corner of the empire. The effects brought about by the vows were beyond comparison. Scorching tears welled up in everyone's eyes as they wept tears of joy, edified by his vows. For a while, those that already worshipped Meng became even pious, while those that didn't also started to worship him. Meng worshippers began to increase at a terrifying rate. When all these pieces of information made their way into the 3 major empires, the influence they caused on the humans there was also beyond comparison. As the saying went, with comparison come frustrations. For a while, everyone longed for the Meng Empire. Everyone wanted to become part of the Meng Empire. Among them, those with initiative then started to flee. To sum it up, the whole continent had become chaotic because of Meng actions. An invisible storm engulfed the continent as the 3 major empires started to be shaken at the core. Of course, none of this was very important. The 3 empires didn't fear rioting slaves. The only thing that worried them was still just Meng himself. The slaves didn't possess any combat power. No matter how fiercely they struggled, it was no more than the mad barking of the weak. On the other hand, Meng was different. He loomed over them like a sharp blade that might cleave down upon them any moment. In the Beast People Empire, please, I'm leaving it to you, High Priest. The Beast Emperor, as well as all the Beast People Empire officials, were all watching the old Foxman with hope and anticipation in their eyes. Now that things had come to this, they could only place hope in the Beast God. Your Majesty, this old man will try his best. The aging old high priest let out a couple of coughs. Then, he slowly closed his eyes and began to build a communication link with the Beast God hidden in some obscure place. As the Beast God's most devout worshipper in Heaven's Vault continent, it wasn't hard for the old Foxman to build a link to the Beast God. The Beast God would also usually respond to him, but this time, a minute passed, 2 minutes passed, half an hour passed. Your Majesty, I've disappointed you. The old Foxman opened his eyes, a look of shame and guilt on his face. Old High Priest, has the Beast God really abandoned his pious believers? The Beast Emperor's eyes were filled with hopelessness. Dejected and lost, all the officials looked like lifeless grieving widows. Your Majesty, let me try again. The old Foxman let out a resigned laugh. He quietly set ablaze the power of his divine spirit and strengthened his senses. Yet, no matter how hard or how many times he tried, the great Beast God simply didn't respond. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. In the end, the old Foxman could no longer persevere any further. He coughed up blood, collapsed to the ground, and breathed his last. Old High Priest, old High Priest, sob! A sad and sorrowful atmosphere filled the hall as the officials fell onto their knees. The Beast Emperor was filled with self-blame. Old High Priest, it's my fault. It's all my fault. Disregarding the sorrowful and despairing Beast People Empire monarch and officials for now and focusing on the old Foxman instead, a mysterious and mighty force descended upon him and brought his divine spirit away after he died. When he opened his eyes, he was already in a beautiful, scenic, and picturesque golden divine nation. Power of divinity descended from above and remanifested a physical body for him. A brief moment later, a strong and muscular Foxman with a head full of black hair appeared. It was the Foxman himself. As the Foxman looked at his hands and took in his young and strong body sensation, he became so agitated that tears filled his eyes, and he dropped onto his knees right away and kowtowed. "O great Beast God! Thank you for your generosity and kindness. Praise be to you. Those who believe in me shall gain eternal life." An awe-inspiring, majestic, and thunderous voice rang out in his ear. The old Foxman knew that it was the Beast God's voice. At once, he lamented tearfully, "O great beast god, please save your lowly people. They are currently in an abyss of suffering." The beast god's voice, however, completely died down and didn't sound again. "Beast god." The old foxman fell limp onto the ground as a look of despair came over his features. He knew the beast god had completely abandoned the beast people in Heaven's Vault continent. In the Titan Empire, "What do we do now, Your Majesty?" "Think of something, Your Majesty." The Titan Empire officials were currently in a state of utter panic. In spite of that, the Thunder Titan Emperor was instead drowning his sorrows in alcohol, paying no attention whatsoever to the anxious officials. "Your Majesty." Helpless, the officials could only request the Titan Empress to make an appearance in hopes that she could persuade the Emperor. "Oh, it's the Empress? Come on, have a few drinks with me." "Your Majesty, how can I possibly still be in the mood to drink when a national crisis looms over us?" the Titan Empress said. "The officials are all in a panic and awaiting your directions." "Directions? What kind of directions can I possibly give?" The Thunder Titan Emperor looked completely drunk as he said, "The temple grandmasters are all dead, and even Horus, whom the Titan spiritual god had dispatched, is also dead. The enormous Titan Empire doesn't even have a single half-deity anymore. We are but just meat on the chopping block now. What kind of directions is there to give at this point? We can just await death to befall us. Even so, are you just going to do nothing and wait for the Meng Empire to invade us, Your Majesty?" the Titan Empress said in persuasion. "If that happens, we won't have any way out at all." "What do you mean by that, Empress?" The Thunder Titan Emperor looked at the Empress out of the corner of his eyes. "Since we cannot resist them, then why don't we take the initiative to submit to them?" the Titan Empress said gravely. "If we take the initiative to submit, we'll at least be able to welcome a decent outcome, rather than ending up like the dragons whose country has been ruined and the whole race annihilated. But if we do nothing and wait for the Meng Empire to invade us instead, I'm afraid we'll only see our people dead and our country ruined, while we ourselves suffer wretched deaths." "Wretched deaths." The Thunder Titan Emperor shuddered and instantly snapped out of his drunken stupor. He said, Yes, that's right. We mustn't wait for them to invade us. We mustn't. Someone, hurry, assemble the officials. I'm going to submit to the Meng Empire. I don't want to die." In the Fairy Empire, the Fairy Empress opened her beautiful eyes. She gazed at the many pairs of eyes filled with hope and anticipation, let out a wry laugh and said, "Everyone, I have disappointed you. Your Majesty." The officials' countenances changed drastically, their hearts sinking to the very bottom in an instant. As Hara's voice trembled as she asked, "Your Majesty, what did Her Holiness say?" The Fairy Empress' expression was pained as she replied, "She wants us to take the initiative to submit. I am to lead the fairies to take shelter in the Forest of Life, and from then on, we are never to take another step out of the Forest of Life ever again." Take shelter in the Forest of Life? How would that do? As Hara couldn't accept the outcome at all. The Fairy Empire's territory included the entire fairy forests. Its vastness in territory was in no way inferior to the Dragon God Empires, while it was only a tad smaller than the Beast People Empires. But what about the Forest of Life? The Tree of Vitality gave off a vitality barrier, and the range that the barrier covered formed the Forest of Life. It was the heart of the fairy forests and measured only about 1,000 miles in radius. That bit of territory wasn't even as big as a corner of the fairy forests. Yet they, the fairies, had to give up the vast and spacious fairy forests to take shelter in the Forest of Life that only measured 1,000 miles in radius? Who would be able to accept something like that? This is Her Holiness' orders. There's nothing I can do about it, either. The Fairy Empress let out a soft sigh, and then she ordered, "Dispatch envoys to the Meng Empire at once and take the initiative to submit. On account of Her Holiness, I should think that His Majesty Meng wouldn't go as far as to take all our lives." "We mustn't, Your Majesty." As Hara cried out, "The fairy forests are the fairies' home. If we give up the fairy forests, just how many of our clansmen would we have to abandon?" Regimental Commander Azhara, "I know this is a painful decision to make, but have you thought about this?" Should we not give up the fairy forests? The entire fairy race shall completely vanish from the face of heaven's vault continent. A look of pain came over the fairy empress' countenance as she asked, "Between the two, which do you think is worse?" Fatty Heart, Hutters, and the others gazed at Meng Lei with expressions of reverence, their countenances somewhat reserved and uncomfortable. "What's with the Your Majesty this and Your Majesty that? There isn't any Your Majesty here but just your friend and the person Meng Lei." Meng Lei had already discovered Fatty Heart, Hutters, Joseph, Jonah, Andrew, and the others hidden among the crowd during the ascension ceremony earlier. He then summoned them into the Imperial Palace after the ceremony had ended. It had been more than 2 years since he'd last met them. To be honest, he really missed them somewhat. "Your Majesty, you're the monarch while we're commoners. We mustn't neglect proper propriety." They felt rather overwhelmed by the honor and spoke rather reservedly. Meng Lei was still the Meng Lei they knew, but his status had undergone a tremendous change by now. This was especially true after they personally witnessed him slaying a true god. It had given them a clear understanding of Meng Lei's great strength and power, who, then, could still bring themselves to behave like how they had in the past in front of him. They couldn't, and neither could they return to those days. "Oh, you guys!" Meng Lei felt rather resigned. He had finally experienced what solitude felt like. When the disparity in strength or status between two parties reached a point so vast in size, even friends and family would drift apart. Even if one had treated them as friends all along, that might not necessarily also be the case for the other party. Left with no other choice, Meng Lei could only invite them to take a seat and try his best to bring up topics that would help to relieve the tension in the atmosphere. He asked, "Is everything all right in the village, Captain Hutters?" "Yes, everything is fine." At Meng Lei's question, Hutters jumped onto his feet at once. He said, "During the last couple of years, because the villagers have consumed the divine tree fruits that you bestowed upon them and coupled with the special care given to us by Lord Pahaman, the villagers' lives have been improving more and more, and their combat power becoming stronger and stronger by the day." "I'm glad to hear that." Meng Lei let him take a seat. Then he said, "I see that you've also become a 9th-grade warrior now. The energy flow around you is strong and solid. I believe you can break through to become a Saint Domain very soon." Hutters hastily said in gratitude, "This is all thanks to Your Majesty's great blessings." In truth, he wasn't the only one. Joseph, Jonah, Andrew, and the others had also improved tremendously. Joseph and Andrew had become 8th-grade warriors, while Jonah had become an 8th-grade great magician. Compared to 2 years ago, they had become much, much stronger. This didn't count as much, though. The one with the truly dramatic improvement was Fatty Heart. During the short 2 years of separation, that fellow had actually already broken through to the Saint Domain stage. The dragon might around him was pure and vast. Evidently, he had already awakened his golden colossal dragon, and it was a high level of awakening at that, the kind where he could transform into a golden colossal dragon. "Looks like you haven't been slacking off during the last 2 years. A laughing Meng Lei patted Fatty Heart. Fatty Heart hastily got up and said, "This is all thanks to Your Majesty." Dissatisfied, Meng Lei said fiercely, "Do you believe me when I say that I'll smack you on the face if you call me Your Majesty again? Have you forgotten what you used to call me? You're old bro." Fatty Heart had a troubled look on his face. "That's more like it." Meng Lei felt much more comfortable now. He said cheerfully, "I've said that I would gift you New Dragon Island and make you the new Dragon Emperor of the Colossal Dragons if you could break through to the Saint Domain stage. I'm a man of my word. So New Dragon Island is yours now." "Oh, old bro, that won't do. That won't do." Fatty Heart shook his hands hastily. He said, "How can you take something said in jest back then so seriously?" "Jest? I meant what I said." Meng Lei glared at him and said, "You're unhappy because there aren't any dragons on New Dragon Island, right? Don't worry. I have tens of thousands of colossal dragons at hand. I'll send them to New Dragon Island for you later. Is that all right?" Fatty Heart blinked, a hint of excitement surfacing in his small, narrow eyes. Those were tens of thousands of colossal dragons. It would be a waste to just leave the lost continent as it is anyway, so I might as well make use of it. Besides, the tens of thousands of colossal dragons are living off me at the moment. They're close to bankrupting me. Meng patted Fatty Heart on the shoulder and said, "Just take it as you're doing me a favor and properly manage them in my stead." "How does that sound?" "Since you've put it that way, it would be rude of me to decline any further, old bro." Fatty Heart snickered, a wretched expression surfacing on his face once more. "That's more like it. Given your current strength, I'm afraid you won't be able to suppress those colossal dragons, though. Every single one of those guys is awfully arrogant and rebellious." Meng gave him a smile, and then he brought out a metal elemental divine core. He said, "Take this and refine it. Once you've assimilated it, you likely won't have any more problems suppressing them." "What's this, old bro?" Fatty Heart stared at the divine core. He could feel the terrifying divine power energy fluctuations coming from the divine core, and they made him incredibly fearful. "This is a divine core," a smiling Meng said. "One that has already been processed, of course. The original owner's thoughts, will, memories, divinity, and so on have all been fully cleansed and removed. Only pure power of divinity and laws of nature comprehension have been left behind in it, so you can assimilate it with peace of mind." A divine core. Fatty Heart shuddered all over, so astonished that he almost jumped. He would have at least heard of it even if he hadn't actually seen one before. What was a divine core? It was the sign of a deity. Once he assimilated the divine core, he would make the leap to becoming a deity in one bound. A lofty deity high up above. Just what kind of supreme treasure was this? "Old bro, this thing is too precious. I can't accept it. I really can't." Fatty Heart shook his head vehemently. He said, "You're already treating me with enough kindness, old bro. I'd be too greedy if I take anything else from you." "You sure say a lot of crap." Meng snorted lightly. Then he snapped his fingers lightly. A drop of blood shot out of Fatty Heart and landed on the divine core, upon which the divine core instantly embedded itself in between Fatty Heart's brows and vanished from sight. "Old bro. Where's the divine core?" Fatty Heart was greatly alarmed. "It has already integrated itself with you," a smiling Meng said, "at your newly promoted Saint Domain prowess. Even though you'll need a much longer time than a half-deity to completely assimilate the divine core, at least it's still possible to achieve. Don't run about carelessly from now on. Stay in the Imperial Palace and fully assimilate it for now, lest someone finds out and attacks you for the divine core." "Thank you, old bro." Fatty Heart's eyes reddened as he said, "Old bro, my life is yours now, be it the most dangerous of places or the most severe of trials. I, Fatty Heart, will not hesitate." "Relax, it's not that serious." Meng sighed. "To be honest, I also have my own selfish reasons for doing so. I'll eventually have to leave Heaven's Vault continent and head into the vast void someday. How lonely would it be to be all by myself? So I'll have to bring a few friends together with me, right? That way I won't be all alone." At this point, Meng then turned to Hutters and the others. "All of you must work hard in your cultivation, too. When you've broken through to the Saint Domain stage, we'll become deities and break through the void together." Joseph pointed at himself with a look of disbelief and asked, "Big brother Meng, am I also capable of becoming a deity?" Meng smiled and said, "Of course. Thus, all of you must work hard and strive to achieve the Saint Domain stage as soon as possible." Big brother Meng will definitely work hard. As they ate, drank, and chatted about the past and embarrassing childhood incidents, everyone slowly relaxed and was no longer that reserved. Laughter and chatter went on without pause at the table. Meng didn't cultivate during the next few days. Instead, he accompanied the others and had fun in the Imperial city. Only when they were more or less done did he see them off. The moment he returned to the Imperial Palace, Puhaman led a group of people and requested an audience with him. "Didn't I tell you, Puhaman? You have full authority to handle state affairs on my behalf. You can take care of everything, so there's no need to ask me for anything. Thank you for your trust in me, Master," Puhaman said with a wry chuckle before continuing. "But this matter today really requires you to make the decision." "What is it?" Meng was rather surprised. The Fairy Empire and the Titan Empire's envoys are here. They've taken the initiative to submit to us. An excited Pahaman said, the Titan Empire is willing to offer up all of their national territory, and only requests that your majesty can bestow upon them a plot of land for the Titans to live and proliferate. The Thunder Titan Emperor is surprisingly wise. Meng smiled and said, all right, since he's so amenable to reason, then I shall fulfill his wishes. Pahaman, draft my decree. Awaiting your instructions, master. I hereby appoint the Thunder Titan Emperor as the Life Peer Titan Duke and bestow upon him the Titan ranges as a fief for the Titans to inhabit, said an aloof Meng. How brilliant of your majesty. Pahaman bowed slightly. Thank you for your kindness, your majesty. The Titan Empire envoy bowed and gave his thanks. He had lived up to his mission and achieved his diplomatic mission's objective. You may rise. Meng waved lightly. Master, the Fairy Empire is also willing to offer up the entire fairy forests and submit to us. They only request that your majesty bestow the forest of life upon them as the fairies' habitat, said Pahaman. The fairies have actually also submitted? Meng was awfully surprised. He couldn't help but turn to the Fairy Empire envoy. The fairies weren't weak. On top of that, they were the fairy goddess worshippers, while the fairy goddess herself was a great higher deity. Was she really willing to part with a territory as vast and spacious as the fairy forests? That didn't make sense. Your Majesty, this is Her Holiness' holy decree, said the Fairy Empire envoy with a bow. The fairy goddess instructions? Meng couldn't help but become even more curious. However, this wasn't the time to be puzzled over something like that. He gazed at the Fairy Empire envoy and said, since the Fairy Empire has taken the initiative to express goodwill, neither am I an unkind person. We'll go with the Fairy Empire's wishes. Thank you, your majesty. The Fairy Empire envoy also bowed and expressed their gratitude. You can deal with the rest of the matters as you deem appropriate, Pahaman, said Meng with a wave as he started to chase them away. There's one more thing, master, said a rather hesitant Pahaman. What is it? A look of puzzlement came over Meng features. It's about the Imperial Harem, Pahaman reminded him. Now that Master has ascended the throne and become the ruler of the Empire, leaving the harem empty would be disadvantageous to the Empire's stability and development. It's time to fill up the Imperial Harem, Master. Meng was rather lost for words. What does an empty harem have anything to do with the Empire's stability? I'm a great true god who's immortal and indestructible. Is there a need to pass down the throne and legacy? A wry smile appeared on Pahaman's lips at once. He said, you are indeed immortal, master, but you'll eventually leave heaven's vault continent someday. When that day comes, who are you going to pass down the throne to? We'll talk about that when the time comes. Meng waved and said, leave if there's nothing else. I'm tired. Yes, master. A resigned Pahaman could only leave with the others. Royal consort selection. Meng shook his head resolutely. I'm a man with a wife and a child. How can I do something as immoral as this behind my wife's back? No, absolutely not. But 3 palaces, 6 courtyards, and 72 royal consorts. The sound of it alone already excites me. Their sheer numbers were as though sand in the desert. There were no magic elements, air or water outside the plains, but just turbulent, havoc-wreaking time-space fluxes. These time-space fluxes were the void itself. The word void meant nothingness, while the world of the void meant a world of nothingness. Heaven's vault continent was one of the innumerable bubble-like existential planes. Piled up around it was an infinite amount of dust particles that circled and spun around heaven's vault continent like meteors. From afar, the dust particles looked very small. It was only when one went nearer that they would realize that these dust particles were, in fact, incredibly huge like humongous floating blocks of land. Among them was a certain dust particle that wasn't very big and looked completely inconspicuous. It floated quietly in the air. However, unbeknown to anyone was that there was actually more to the dust particle's interior than meets the eye. Hidden inside of it was actually a divine nation. The divine nation was a world full of life and vitality. Endless, expansive fields, meandering and undulating seas of forests, the magnificent, azure-blue oceans, everything that a material plane should carry, as well as things that a material plane shouldn't carry, could all be found there. Full of vitality, grand and magnificent, lush and luxuriant, as though a celestial realm. Floating within the divine nation was a lofty and magnificent-looking shrine made out of gold. Engraved on its surface were densely packed laws of nature runes that looked just like tadpoles. A middle-aged man sat in the grand hall's center with a transparent floating crystal ball before him. Various scenes were reflected in the crystal ball. Innumerable lionmen wailing and crying as they kowtowed and prayed to a beast god statue. Innumerable tigermen on their knees as they wept tears of blood while piously praying and begging for salvation. Innumerable hippomen, pigmen, foxmen, centaurs, taurens, elephant men. Sigh! The middle-aged man let out a faint sigh as he watched the scenes depicted in the crystal ball, a sense of helplessness welling up within him. It's not that I'm unwilling to save all of you, but there's nothing I can do about the ongoings in Heaven's Vault continent. The middle-aged man was the deity whom the Beast People Empire in Heaven's Vault continent worshipped, the Beast God. In the very instant that Meng killed Horus, the Beast God knew the Beast People Empire was finished, even if he was absolutely unwilling for it to happen, even if he was absolutely discontent with the result, even if he absolutely couldn't bear to part with it. There was nothing the Beast God could do. Meng was unbeatable in Heaven's Vault continent. Any measures taken against him were all in vain. Rather than doing something like that, he might as well give it up cleanly and consider his options again after Meng left. In any case, this wasn't the first time that the Beast God had experienced something like this. He knew what the correct course of action to take was. Nevertheless, he still felt displeased upon witnessing his worshippers weeping tears of blood as they prayed to him. There were a great number of devout believers and even fanatics among them. Their faith in him was pious and fervent and provided an extremely impressive amount of power of faith. Even after their deaths, he could bring them into the divine nation and grant them eternal life, in turn letting them provide him with an endless supply of power of faith. Yet he had to give all of them up now. The loss could be said to be a significant one. It's all Meng fault. Flames of fury flickered in the Beast God's eyes, only to turn into resignation thereafter. Meng was very weak and was someone whom he could easily smack dead with just his palm. But when he was far away in Heaven's Vault continent, I don't believe that you can hide in Heaven's Vault continent forever. The day you leave will be the day you die. Fury boiled in the Beast God's heart as intense murderous intent toward Meng welled up within him. Lord Beast God, what is troubling you? A laugh traveled over from outside the hall at this point. Slightly surprised, the Beast God then noticed a burly middle-aged man with horns on his head walking in. Helibos, how dare you come here? A hint of murderous intent flitted across the Beast God's eyes as he gazed at the newcomer. Aren't you afraid that I'll extract your divine spirit from your body, find your divine nation, and thoroughly kill you? Helibos Haber was the dragon god's real name. In other words, the newcomer was one of Heaven's Vault continent's 4 great true gods, the dragon god himself. Of course, he had only sent a divinity projection there and hadn't arrived in the flesh. The dragon god would never dare to step into the beast god's divine nation for sure. That was no different from having a death wish. Lord Beast God, it has already been 60,000 years since then. Must you still hold a grudge even now? The dragon god gave him a leisurely smile and said, Besides, I'm here to strike a deal with you today. I believe you won't kill me. 60,000 years is but just a nap to us. The beast god was non-committal as he said, But I've never forgotten how you had stolen my power of faith back then. Lord Beast God, I didn't have any choice back then either. In order to deify, I could only resort to that. I hope Lord Beast God can understand, said the dragon god as he adopted a very humble stance. Humph! The beast god snorted lightly before he said, Now, tell me, what are you here for? What has actually made come all the way here, despite having to run the risk of being killed by me? Lord Beast God, You should also know that all deities like us care about is nothing more than just 3 words, power of faith. The dragon god said softly, "You've also seen it for yourself. A monster has emerged in heaven's vault continent. Not only has he seized my dragon god empire, but he even intends to unify the continent. I believe that he'll also destroy your beast people empire shortly after, Lord Beast God, and your billions of worshippers shall also be gone with the wind. The loss is simply too great to bear. Meng's behavior is too perverse. Decline will eventually come after the zenith has passed. This is just nature running its course." The beast god remained non-committal. He said, "Besides, he'll eventually leave heaven's vault continent. When that happens, the Meng empire he has established will also dissolve accordingly, like the Fairy Empire, the Titan Empire, and the Beast People Empire of olden times, and your Dragon God Empire. That may be the case, but who knows when that knave is going to leave. During this period of time, how much power of faith will you lose?" The Dragon God said anxiously, "Lord Beast God, the knave is behaving so wildly and arrogantly. Are you just going to watch him run rampantly like that?" "Helibos, what exactly are you trying to say?" The beast god let out an icy snort of laughter and said, "Get straight to the point. I don't have the time to beat about the bush with you. Lord Beast God, the Dragon God Empire is my one and only power of faith domain. I cannot lose it just like that." The Dragon God's countenance then changed slightly as he said gravely, "Moreover, the Colossal Dragons have also been wiped out by that knave. How can I possibly accept an outcome like this if I don't seek revenge? Calm down. You'll get used to it after experiencing it a few more times." The beast god waved him off and said, "If there's nothing else, you may leave, Lord Beast God." The dragon god gritted his teeth and said, "If you aid me in my revenge and help me to take back the Dragon God Empire, I will offer up a big gift." "A big gift?" The beast god scoffed. "Who doesn't know that you're the weakest and poorest among heaven's vault continents, 4 great true gods? What kind of big gift can you come up with?" The dragon god didn't rebut him. Instead, he asked, "If memory serves me right, the laws of nature that Lord Beast God is in the midst of comprehending are thunder, fire, wind, light, and ice, right? That's some thorough investigation you've done. So what even if it is?" The beast god's countenance turned icy. "I'll speak candidly with you, Lord Beast God. I've once stumbled upon a hidden realm and obtained a fair number of treasures from within in the past, among which happens to be a fusion laws of nature fragment," said the smiling dragon god as a shrewd glint flashed across his eyes. "A fusion laws of nature fragment?" A huge jolt went through the beast god. His eyes bore straight into the dragon god as they glinted fiercely in the light. "You mean?" Chapter 267 Struggling at Death's Door, the Far Northern Icelands. The beast god jumped off his seat. Fearsome divine power weighed down on the dragon god, almost blasting apart his divinity projection. "Helibos, you should know the outcome of deceiving me." The beast god's eyes bore into the dragon god. "I daren't deceive you, beast god." The smile vanished from the dragon god's face, and he said, "I swear upon my divine spirit, should there be any untruths in my words, then let me plummet into the depths of hell for eternity and die from 1,000 ghosts devouring my heart. Give it to me." The excited beast god's eyes shone brightly. He had already completely comprehended 5 types of laws of nature: thunder, fire, wind, light, and ice, and manifested 5 divine incarnations. Thus, he was currently a pinnacle-level intermediate deity. He was only a single step away from becoming a higher deity. But to cross that step, he had to at least completely assimilate 2 types of laws of nature first. The beast god dreamed of achieving that and becoming a higher deity, but it was not to be. It was exactly this tiny little step that firmly caged the beast god. No matter how hard he tried, he simply couldn't assimilate any 2 of those laws of nature. To him, the tiny little step was as though an insurmountable obstacle. After all these years, even the beast god himself had become rather filled with despair. In fact, He was already beginning to wonder whether it was impossible for him to ever break through to become a higher deity in this lifetime of his. But the beast god saw hope again in this instant. A fusion laws of nature fragment. As long as he could obtain that fusion laws of nature fragment and comprehend the thunder ice fusion laws of nature within, he would be able to use that window of opportunity to follow the trail. He might then have a chance at fusing the two types of laws of nature, thunder and ice, into one. Yes, a chance. At least he would have a chance, rather than not having even the slightest inkling as to how to go about it like now. Therefore, the beast god's mind had become set on obtaining the fragment mentioned by the dragon god, provided that it really did exist. At the sight of the beast god's reaction, the dragon god immediately knew that he had bitten the hook. He said with a slight smile, "By risking my life to approach the beast god today, I've already long since thrown away everything, including my own divine nation." "What do you mean?" The beast god watched him closely. "Lord Beast God, I know that the fusion laws of nature fragment holds great significance to you. In order to obtain it, you will even go as far as to kill this divinity projection of mine in order to locate my divine nation and find my actual body." The dragon god looked absolutely confident as he asked, "Am I right, Lord Beast God? Since you already know that, then cut the crap and hand over the fragment at once." The beast god replied coldly, "Calm down, Lord Beast God. I told you, in order to seek revenge, I've long since abandoned everything I have, including my divine nation." The smiling dragon god said, "To be honest with you, my actual body has already left the divine nation and entered the vast void together with all my treasures, including that fusion laws of nature fragment. You won't be able to find me even if you kill this divinity projection of mine." The beast god was startled for a moment before he gazed coldly at the dragon god and remarked, "Helibos, you sure are a cautious one. I've underestimated you. Thank you for the compliment, Lord Beast God. You're a nine-eyed wolf, after all. How would I possibly dare to be careless when associating with you? Thus, I could only employ a clumsy method like this," replied the smiling dragon god. The beast god narrowed his eyes and watched the dragon god closely for quite a while before he slowly asked, "Tell me, what conditions do you have? I hope the beast god can kill that renegade Meng for me and avenge me, and help me to take back the dragon god empire that used to belong to me." The dragon god quickly added, "As long as the beast god helps me, I'll be more than happy to offer up that fusion laws of nature fragment to repay the beast god's kindness." "Change your condition." The beast god shook his head lightly. "Meng is close to unbeatable when he's in heaven's vault continent. Nobody can kill him there, including myself. Lord Beast God." The dragon god was panicking. The beast god waved and said dispassionately, "As long as you hand over that fusion laws of nature fragment, I'll permit you to pick a good continent from among the 7 material planes I rule over to spread your faith. That's much better than the dragon god empire. Lord Beast God, with my prowess, I can easily find a random remote material plane to spread my faith if I really wanted to," said the dragon god as he shook his head. "But I simply cannot take this lying down. Not only has that kid Meng stolen my dragon god empire, but he's even slaughtered one of my incarnations alive in front of so many mortals. Only his blood may cleanse this hatred and grudge of mine. I hope the beast god can help me. Helibos, you're too obsessed with that. This isn't the way of the gods." The beast god shook his head slightly. Then he said, "It's not impossible to kill Meng though. May the beast god point me in the right direction." The dragon god was overjoyed. "I have a devil contract here. The master of the contract is a demon god." The beast god said dispassionately, "You should also know that we true gods cannot descend upon material planes with our true bodies. However, the demon gods can." The dragon god was overjoyed. He said, "Lord Beast God, I'm willing to exchange the fragment for that devil contract. Give me the laws of nature fragment, and this devil contract is yours." Like a frightened deer, a black figure flitted swiftly across the sky. He crossed the mountains and the hills, weaving through the dragon god empire and the far northern wastelands to finally arrive at the far northern Icelands. As the northernmost area of Heaven's Vault continent, the far northern Icelands were perpetually covered in ice and snow. A white world of ice and snow. It was icy cold and filled with dead silence. The place was simply too cold. Aside from ice elemental magical beasts, there were almost no other traces of life. The dragon god has suffered a crushing defeat. The dragons will never rise again. From now on, Heaven's vault continent shall completely become Meng's. The black figure slowed down. It was actually the Tempest Colossal Dragon half-deity that had just partaken in the throne ascension ceremony at the summit of Mount Dragon God, and was subsequently frightened out of his wits. He had fled the Dragon God Empire and come all the way to the far northern Icelands in hopes of avoiding Meng. I, a great dragon half-deity, have actually fallen into this state. How unjust of the heavens! Never mind. I shall live out the rest of my life in these far northern Icelands from now on. I'll leave when Meng departs Heaven's vault continent. The Tempest Colossal Dragon then found an ice mountain and got ready to excavate and build a den as living quarters. But at that moment, a golden light pillar descended from above and coalesced into a divinity projection. The Tempest Colossal Dragon spun around to see a golden, middle-aged man standing behind him. At once, a shudder went through the Tempest Colossal Dragon, and he lowered his head and kowtowed. Greetings, Your Holiness. Arlo, to think you've actually fled all the way to these far northern Icelands? The dragon god frowned and asked, Is it because you fear Meng that you've decided to hide here like a rat and live out your ignoble existence? Your Holiness, The Tempest Colossal Dragon wished he could bury himself in a hole. That was indeed what he had thought. As a descendant of the dragons, to think you're actually so cowardly. Arlo, you've tainted the noble dragon race. I'm very disappointed in you. Your Holiness, I was forced into this. I have no other choice, either. The Tempest Colossal Dragon hastily explained. That knave Meng is simply too powerful. Even if I wish to fight him to the death, I'm not his match at all. What if there is a way to kill him? Tempest's eyes were filled with pure hatred. Very well then. The dragon god was quite pleased as he took out a parchment manuscript. Sign this, and you'll have the way to kill Meng and take vengeance for us dragons. May I ask, what is this, Your Holiness? The Tempest Colossal Dragon looked at the devil contract. It was filled with unrecognizable words, giving off an evil vibe. The way to kill Meng. The dragon god's voice was deep with emphasis. The only way. Your Holiness, could you inform me what this is? The Tempest Colossal Dragon asked softly. This is a devil contract. The owner of the contract is a demon god. Once you sign this contract, you can borrow that demon god's powers. The dragon god said coldly. Even if you borrowed a tenth, no, even 100th of that power, it'll be enough to kill that knave. A devil contract? The Tempest Colossal Dragon trembled all over while his head was shaking like a rattling drum. Your Holiness, I heard that signing the devil contract means selling your soul to the devil. From then on, my life, freedom, and dignity would be controlled by the devil, becoming a slave and puppet of the devil where death is easier than living. You can say that, the dragon god replied indifferently. No, I can't. The Tempest Colossal Dragon shook his head repeatedly. I can't sign such an evil contract. I can't completely give up my life and freedom just for revenge. Selfish coward. The dragon god's eyes were fuming. As a half-deity of our race, you shoulder our hatred and the heavy responsibility to restore our honor. How can you neglect these and for your self-interest? Your Holiness, once I sign this contract, I'll degenerate into a puppet. The Tempest Colossal Dragon shook his head repeatedly again. I can't agree to this. You should find someone else. The dragon's vengeance was important, but it would be worth nothing compared to his life. The Tempest Colossal Dragon was not going to sell his soul away just for revenge. No way. Absolutely no way. Even if it was an order from the dragon god. Arlo. So you are going against my will? The dragon god's face turned cold. Your Holiness, I wouldn't dare go against your will, but as a half-deity, I have my dignity, and you cannot force me. The The Tempest Colossal Dragon switched from his obedient self of before to a tough attitude. Even though the difference between a half-deity and a true god was worlds apart, a half-deity was still a deity. Of those that could become half-deities, who was not prideful and hardy? How could Arlo give up his life and sell his soul to the devil just because of a few words of the dragon god? That was nothing more than wishful thinking. You dare defy me? The dragon god was enraged as terrifying divine power soared up the sky and pressed toward the Tempest Colossal Dragon. My great Lord Dragon God, I just want to survive. Please do not make it difficult for me. Let us part our ways. The Tempest Colossal Dragon bowed slightly, turned into a stream of light, and escaped outside. Though the dragon god was just a divinity projection, it could still utilize a half-deity's strength. The Tempest Colossal Dragon did not dare to challenge him and decided to escape. Selfish fool, you think you can run away? The dragon god gave a cold snort and flew over. What's going on? The Tempest Colossal Dragon spasmed all over as he felt a sharp pain across his body, as if he was bitten by thousands of ants and suffered greatly. What's going on? What is happening to me? The Tempest Colossal Dragon was petrified. Selfish coward. You are a disgrace to the dragons. The dragon god watched the suffering Tempest Colossal Dragon. You deserve to die. What exactly have you done to me? The Tempest Colossal Dragon was alarmed and furious. Still remember how you broke through to become a half-deity? The dragon god asked detachedly. Assimilating the primordial colossal dragon's blood, breaking the bloodline deadlock. The Tempest Colossal Dragon's eyes widened suddenly. You tampered with the primordial colossal dragon's blood? You're not too foolish after all. The dragon god said coldly. The so-called primordial colossal dragon's blood was my divine blood. And of course, I've added something inside. Why did you do that? The Tempest Colossal Dragon's face contorted in pain. We are all dragons. We are even your followers. Why would you harm us? Why? Of course, it's a precaution. The dragons only need one dragon god. The dragon god shook his head slightly. No one else shall contest for the power of faith with me. Despicable. Selfish. Shameless. The Tempest Colossal Dragon's countenance was grim. Hellebos, what kind of dragon god are you? You don't deserve to be a dragon god. Cut the crap. The dragon god snorted coldly and threw out the devil contract. Sign this, and you'll stay alive. Or else, I will make you explode instantly. You, Bast *RD. The Tempest Colossal Dragon was full of hatred. If it was possible, he really wanted to give everything he had and perish together with the dragon god. Yet, in reality, he would not dare or want to do so. He had not lived enough and did not want to die. Plus, so what if he fought till the end? What was in front of him was just a divinity projection and not dragon god himself, so what was the point perishing with that? Your Holiness, you've won. In the end, the Tempest Colossal Dragon was wise enough and yielded as he signed the devil contract. But at the moment when the contract came into effect, a huge dimensional vortex appeared in the sky, emitting an evil aura that would make people's heart pound wildly. Gulp, the Tempest Colossal Dragon swallowed his saliva as his eyes were filled with terror. If he could, he would have run away at the first sight of it. Two blood-red light beams shot out of the vortex, and a head that was darker than the night poked out slowly. Boom! A vast and vile aura spread across instantly. Even the air started to solidify due to the immense pressure. The Tempest Colossal Dragon was trembling as he was extremely terrified. This is... The dragon god fixed his eyes and recognized this demon god, who was comparable to an intermediate deity. Thick ram horns, blood-red eyes, unbreakable scale armor, fangs that exuded an eerie chill, and a petrifying and depressing evil aura. Dark demonic dragon. The dragon god murmured as there was a flash of wariness in his eyes. This demon god's power was on par with his actual body. Indeed, the gigantic head that came out of the dimensional vortex was a dragon head. But this dragon head was way too big. The dragon horns were already 100,000 feet long. The pair of eyes were larger than a bus, while every scale was the size of a basketball court gleaming with a black shine. You can conjure up the whole body just by seeing a part of it. Lowly servant from far away, it is you who awakened me? The dark demonic dragon's lips moved, letting out a deep and intimidating voice. Yes, yes, my great master. The Tempest Colossal Dragon was shivering in fear. As a half-deity, his size was rather huge at 10,000 feet. However, that was not even a tenth of the size of the dark demonic dragon's head, not to mention the entire body. Both were from way different leagues. Such a disgusting smell. The dark demonic dragon raised its eyebrows and looked at the dragon god. Lowly and foul-smelling stink bug. Stay away from me. Roar. With a terrifying roar, the dragon god's divinity projection exploded in a flash, and even the void around it was blasted into a mixture of black holes. Upon seeing this, the Tempest Colossal Dragon felt jovial for a while but lowered his head even more. One must know that the dark demonic dragon had the same roots as the dragons before it turned into a devil, becoming the colossal dragon race's archnemesis. They were simply incompatible together. The Tempest Colossal Dragon was afraid that this dark demonic dragon did not like the sight of him, and it might swallow him alive. His death would be too tragic. Having dealt with the dragon god's divinity projection, the dark demonic dragon's eyes fell upon the Tempest Colossal Dragon. Lowly bug, it was you who signed my contract? Yes, my great master. The Tempest Colossal Dragon's voice was trembling. Your smell is very disgusting. The dark demonic dragon growled in a deep voice. But since you signed the devil contract, giving me a low-end existential plane, I shall not kill you. Thank you for your kindness, master. The Tempest Colossal Dragon repeatedly kowtowed as he broke out in cold sweat. He was really worried that he would be swallowed by the dark demonic dragon and die in vain. However, since you have signed the contract to become my servant, you must obey me. Or else, I can kill you anytime, the dark demonic dragon said indifferently. I shall perform the duties you lay upon me faithfully. The Tempest Colossal Dragon quickly declared his allegiance. Great. Very good. The dark demonic dragon was pleased. First order. Build the magic circle immediately, summoning our servants to conquer this existential plane. Conquering this existential plane? A jolt went through the Tempest Colossal Dragon's body. My great master, you want to? Any place I visit shall become my territory. The dark demonic dragon's voice was cold. I will spread my influence around the entire void, and everyone shall bow down before me. Master, I shall follow your will. The Tempest Colossal Dragon kowtowed quickly. But if Master wants to conquer this existential plane, you must eradicate the one person who can stop Master's plans. Once my army descends, every being on this existential plane shall be the army's food. The dark demonic dragon took out a black scale. Construct the magic circle following this. I hope to see its completion half a month later. My great master, but that person? The Tempest Colossal Dragon wanted to carry on speaking, but the dark demonic dragon did not give him any chances as its head retreated into the dimensional vortex and disappeared. For the time being, that ferocious evil aura was gone. In the vast far northern Iceland sky, the Tempest Colossal Dragon hovered alone over there. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Damn you, Hellebos! Damn you! Dark demonic dragon! You're all damned! All damned! The Tempest Colossal Dragon's face was contorted as he clenched his jaws. The amount of hatred he had. In the meantime, the armies of the two empires disbanded and returned home. Meng's troops moved in. Within a mere period of 2 months, the Meng Empire took over 2 empires without bloodshed. At once, various policies were launched one after another, taking down nobles, dividing up the land, promoting faith. As the human race was huge in numbers, these policies quickly received enthusiastic responses from the two countries' people. With their support, the demi-titan and demi-fairy nobles in the two empires couldn't make many waves before they were drowned out in the waves of liberation. The Meng Empire's territory reached an astonishing size at once, threatening the Beast People Empire and making it feel a huge pressure. Everyone, the Fairy Empire and Titan Empire, successively surrendered, and only we, the Beast People Empire are left. What should we do? The Beast Emperor sat on the stone chair, looking much more aged than before. It's all up to you to decide, Your Majesty. The officials of the empire sobbed with a low voice. There were only two choices when looking at the current situation: either surrender and prolong their pitiful life, like the Fairy Empire and Titan Empire, or fight to their death against the Meng Empire. They didn't want to accept either case, nor could they. Surrender? Meng's empire took down nobles and divided up all the land, but it was just so that all these officials were nobles of the Beast People Empire and very prominent nobles. Once they surrendered, they would completely become the Meng Empire's civilians, with no more chance to return to their noble statuses. Fight? They couldn't beat him. Meng had even killed the legendary Titan Horus with even 11 half-deities, as well as 10 half-deities Colossal Dragons under his leadership, so how could they possibly fight against him? Wouldn't that be like hitting an egg against a rock? Up to me to decide? How do I decide? The Beast Emperor was depressed. Either choice will push our Beast People Empire to a place of no return, and I will become the Beast People Empire's criminal. Your Majesty may as well surrender, a pig person official said with a crying voice. Surrender, and we can still live. If we don't, the Meng Empire will completely erase our Beast People Empire from this earth. Then, with our people dead and our country destroyed, we, Beast People, will completely become history, just like the dragons. Wooning pig. How dare you incite Your Majesty to surrender? What is your intention? A wolf person with a wolf head condemned the pig person angrily, his eyes flashing with coldness. Sanwa Wolf, against absolute power. Roaring is useless. Wooning pig said coldly. Roaring will only cause an absolute disaster. Humph. Report. At this time, a lion man guard rushed into the great hall, terrified, and knelt down in front of the Beast Emperor. Your Majesty, it's no good. Upon hearing that, the Beast Emperor stood up at once, and his facial expression changed. Why are you so terrified? Has that Meng already come to our gates? No, not that, Your Majesty. There was just news from the far northern Icelands. A huge demon army suddenly appeared in the far northern Icelands. The lion person guard panicked. Their numbers are astonishing, and they came rushing to the far northern Icelands like a tide. What? A demon army? The Beast Emperor looked at the officials, and all of them looked confused. Everyone knew that the far northern Icelands had no living thing other than a small handful of ice elemental magical beasts. A demon army? Wasn't that nonsense? Right when everyone was confused and stunned, another lion person guard rushed in. Your Majesty, news came from the far northern Icelands. The demon army is huge, and their capability is scary. The far northern Icelands can't hold for much longer, and they hope Your Majesty will send reinforcements soon. Your Majesty, it's no good. In the hours to come, one piece of bad news followed by another hit the hearts of the Beast Emperor and all the members of his court. The demon army broke through the far northern Icelands, and then, like a flood that overcame a dam, it went rushing all the way toward the Beast People Empire. Everywhere it passed, everything was destroyed. What made the Beast Emperor and the top echelon of the empire despair the most was that the angry demon army went all the way without leaving a single living being alive. All living things they encountered were killed. Every strong fort was turned into dust. Every beast person clan was burnt to the ground. Where on earth did this demon army come from? Why would they appear in my Beast People Empire? The Beast Emperor was on the verge of collapse. Who can tell me? Where did they come from? Who do they listen to? How to resist them? The officials looked at one another and said nothing. You're asking me? Who am I supposed to ask? Then, I am also King in despair. Your Majesty, it has come to this, so we should gather our army, choose our generals, and hit the demon army head-on. They are really too fast. A fox person official said hurriedly. If we allow things to continue, it will spread to our entire realm in no time. Our millions of people will all die, and our Beast People Empire will come to its end. Upon hearing this, the Beast Emperor, Grom shivered and nodded continuously. This is very true. A dues? I neglected it. Pass my order. Dispatch 6 big regiments, including the Behemoth, Oxen, and Elephant Men regiments, to stop the invading enemy. Be sure to stop their army, pause their movement, and eventually destroy them completely. Yes, Your Majesty. Meng had no idea about what was happening at the Beast People Empire. A few months later, Fatty Heart finally completed the initial stage integration of that piece of divine core. Thus, he brought Fatty Heart and Sokka's the multi-armed behemoth to the Lost Continent. At present, the duo's aura had undergone an overwhelming change. Their facial expressions carried divine power in every turn of their eyes. Deities. Both had actually already surpassed the level of half-deity to become true gods. Although they were the weakest true gods with the least fighting power, they were indeed real true gods. They couldn't beat other true gods of the same level, but they were more than good enough to deal with Saint Domain experts and half-deities. Big brother. So this is the Lost Continent? Fatty Heart's feet stepped out into empty air. Looking at the green and lush Lost Continent, their eyes contained a bit of curiosity, a bit of excitement, a bit of anticipation. Without any accidents, from now on, this would become the new Dragon Island, and he would become the new Master and Dragon Emperor of this new continent. Yes, this is the Lost Continent. Meng smiled and nodded. From now on, you are in charge of this place. I hope you will manage the Colossal Dragon clan properly. Don't let me down. Rest assured, old bro. I will be sure to keep the Colossal Dragon clan obedient and well-behaved. Make them all become your believers and follow your orders. Fatty Heart patted his chest and promised proudly. He had enough confidence in his own power, so what was dealing with the Colossal Dragon clan to him? Good to hear that. Meng nodded slightly and waved his hand. Flash, countless colossal dragons appeared out of thin air. There were dark colossal dragons with completely black bodies, light colossal dragons shining with bright divine light, frost colossal dragons emanating with a cold shine, and storm colossal dragons with green scales all over their bodies. They came in all kinds and variations, and they numbered more than 10,000. Roar! When so many colossal dragons just appeared, a huge wave of dragon might was immediately released. All of them stretched their necks and roared angrily, expressing the confusion and surprise in their hearts. Roar! Where? Where is this? Did we escape that goddamn place? Fatty Heart. I will leave the rest to you. Meng looked at Fatty Heart smiling. Old bro, just watch. Fatty Heart smiled, took one step out, arrived at the space above the dragons, and decisively changed his form. Boom! A golden colossal dragon, tens of thousands of feet long and shining with golden light all over its body, appeared suddenly. An overwhelming wave of divine power spread and pressed across thousands of miles. Boom! 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 The colossal dragons hit the ground like dumplings being dropped into the pot. Then they were pressed down on the ground hard, shivering, not able to even start to think about resistance. Listen, colossal dragons below, this is the new Dragon Island. You will be the first batch of residents of the new Dragon Island, and I am the new Dragon Emperor. Do you have any objections to this? The new Dragon Island? The new Dragon Emperor. Master left the Lost Continent with Sokka's, and right after he returned to the palace, Pahaman approached him. Master, something big happened in the Beast People Empire. Beast People Empire? Meng eyebrows lifted. These guys made trouble again? In the past few months, the Titan Empire and Fairy Empire had both surrendered, and only the Beast People Empire had not sent any news yet, clearly not willing to surrender. Of course, Meng was displeased, and just as he was about to order the army to attack, something happened in the Beast People Empire? What do these Beast People want to do after all? Fight with him till death or what? Master, our spy dragon guard in the Beast People Empire reported back that a demon army of astonishing numbers was found within the realm of the Empire. They came in great force and momentum and seized almost 1/10 of the Empire's territories near the far northern Icelands within a short period. Pahaman's face was solemn. Now, they are spreading to the entire realm of the Beast People Empire with a shocking speed. Given the demon army's marching speed, They will completely raze the Beast People Empire to the ground within less than half a month. A demon army? Meng looked completely astonished. Where did a demon army come from in the realm of the Beast People Empire? Did some demon magician make trouble? Or did someone accidentally sign a demon contract? Both are possible, Pohaman said in a low voice. When I got the news in the morning, I sent Fenil off to the Beast People Empire already. I believe he will be back soon. Meng nodded slightly. Fenil had similarly integrated his lesser deity divine core, and his ability reached the level of true gods, especially his speed was faster than before. It was the most appropriate for him to collect intelligence. Meng didn't have to wait for long. After just over 2 hours, Fenil came back with shocking news. Master, the size of the demon army attacking the Beast People Empire is estimated at around 100 million. There is a shocking amount of devil overlords among them, and a decent number of even demon lords. Several great demon lords as well. The demon army is extremely fast, and they will completely seize the Beast People Empire. Devil overlords were comparable to half-deities. Demon lords were comparable to true gods. Great demon lords were the equivalent of lesser deities. Master, this is not an ordinary demon invasion. It is more terrifying than any other time in history. We have to be careful. The Iron Heel clan was one of them, occupying several dozen million square kilometers of land in the Iron Heel Plains. The clan had a huge population where experts were plenty, so it had a huge influence over the Taurans and the Beast People Empire. However, the Iron Heel clan was faced with their worst ever crisis on this day, as waves and waves of demons swept toward them like a tsunami. Hull, Crook, Quayak, from the weak juvenile Taurans and the strong Tauran warriors to the Saint Domain experts hovering in the sky, they were all overwhelmed. They were getting torn into pieces and split among the devils as food, getting swallowed as a whole, or getting stomped into a meat sauce by the demon overlords. Everything in the devil's path turned into ruins. We are finished. O great and noble beast god, please save your lowly people. These damn demons, I'm going all out. Save me. Somebody, please save me. Screams, shrills, cries for help rung across the sky above the Iron Heel Plains. They died down quickly as the relentless waves of demons drowned them out. 3 hours later, the tide went away. The Iron Heel clan was completely gone, and what remained was a hellish scene. The Taurans were gone. Buildings had all collapsed. The clan was reduced to ruins. The Iron Heel clan had disappeared forever in the Beast People Empire and Heaven's Vault continent, as if they vanished in thin air. Master, below is the most important passage of the Beast People Empire, the Beast God Pass. It is the only way through to the Beast People Empire's heart and the last line of defense of the Empire. If the pass falls, the demon army will be able to enter straight toward the Beast People Royal Court, and the Empire will fall to the enemies. The Beast God Pass is indeed majestic. Meng hovered in the air and looked at the Grand Pass as he remarked. The Beast God Pass looked mighty as it sat on the far northern wastelands, surrounded by huge mountains and precipitous ridges and spanned over hundreds and thousands of miles. Due to its importance, the Beast People Empire has gathered 10 regiments here to defend the pass at all cost against the demon army. That is certainly so. The Beast People Empire army that amassed at the pass was well over 1 billion in strength. It was simply vast. The 100-meter-high Behemoth Regiment, the blonde-haired Lion People Regiment, and the formidable-looking Tiger People Regiment. Of course, there was also the Bull, Komodo, Elephant Men, Hippo Men, Centaur, Rhino Men, and Leopard Men regiments. Each regiment's average size was over 100 million, so the 10 regiments had a combined force of more than 1 billion strength, on par with India's population. Other than that, many Saint Domain experts gathered at the pass, reaching over 10,000 in size. Over 10,000 Saint Domains was an absolute force to be reckoned with that could destroy a country easily. Despite this, no one favored the Beast People Empire to win. It will be in vain. Everything will be in vain. Gazing at the huge Beast People Empire army, Pohaman shook his head. This demon army is very different from any other demonic disaster in the past. This one is an unprecedented one which this bit of resistance will surely fail. Bubbles, Thanil, Nadia, and the rest nodded in agreement. The Beast People Empire's military strength was indeed formidable, but that was only the case for ordinary beings as it was nothing compared to this demonic disaster. If this carries on, the Beast People Empire will be finished and destroyed by the demon army. Pahaman shook his head and sighed. Master, do we watch them get wiped out and cash in on the situation, or help them out? Bubbles, Thanil, and the others looked at Meng and awaited his orders. The Beast People Empire nobles deserve to die, but the commoners have done no wrong to deserve death. Meng did not hesitate at all. Plus, Beast People live in our Heaven's Vault continent. How can we watch them get destroyed by the demons? Yes, Master. Hull! Just then, a deep roar came from afar, as a black line was spotted on the ground level. As time passed by, the black line became thicker and thicker, turning into a black wave, then into a sea. That was the mighty demon army. Master, the demon army is here. Pahaman, Bubbles, and the rest perked up with no fear in their eyes. They were actually excited and getting ready for a battle. It was the demon army, after all. There were a lot of demon lords that were the same level as them, so they were eager to have the chance to battle them. Indeed, they're here. Meng raised his head slightly as he remained calm. The demons are here. The demon army is coming. The Beast People Empire army saw the demon army's arrival and shouted at the top of their lungs. With every order passed down, the entire Beast People Empire army went to stand by for battle. Arrows on the bowstring. Blades were drawn. Mages chanted lightly. Cannons ready to fire. Roar! Crook! Master! The demon army is here. The Beast Emperor and his officials watched the swarm of the demon army, with hatred, fear, and anxiety in their eyes. Send my orders. From myself down to every soldier. We must give it our all and fight till the very end. We shall defend the Beast God Pass to our death. The Beast Emperor said coldly. Yes, your majesty. The orders were sent down. Still, the Beast Emperor was worried as he flew above his army and said with a thunderous voice, Fellow comrades, the time to defend our homeland has come. Let us destroy these damn demons and protect our home and our loved ones. We shall defend the Beast God Pass to our death. We shall defend the Beast God Pass to our death. We shall defend the Beast God Pass to our death. Every beast people roared at the sky, sending thundering sound waves across the plains, beating the massive demon wave in terms of their aura. Send my order, attack! At his command, countless magic cannons spewed fire and blasted toward the swarm of the demon army. Boom! Innumerable demon soldiers were blasted into pieces while flesh exploded all over the place, creating pockets of empty spaces. However, the rest of the demons were unfazed as they carried on charging at the Beast God Pass. There were fire demons bathed in flames, the ice demons snow-white throughout, the wind demons shrouded in black winds, and bloodseekers made of blood. There were countless little devils, great devils, long-horned devils, and howling devils, all continuing their advancement ceaselessly. Kill! After the cannons were fired, a dense rain of arrows and spells killed innumerable demons, but it still could not stop the demon wave in their tracks. In fact, they did not even slow down at all. In a matter of minutes, the blood-red wave had arrived before the pass. Demon generals of Saint Domain level led the line as they jumped toward the Beast People Empire army at the gateway to start the siege. Attack! The Beast Emperor swung his long sword. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Their attacks were like a massive thunderstorm that turned the demon generals into sieves. Before the defending Beast People Empire could catch their breath, countless demon soldiers carried on with their charge toward the gates. Just like that, a charge led to a counterattack. Under the Beast People Empire army's strong-willed resistance, the demons could not break through for quite a while. In this situation, a half-deity level demon overlord soared into the sky and let out a deafening roar. Roar! A mighty demonic aura erupted and pressed toward the Beast People Empire army. Upon sensing this threatening might, the Beast People Empire army panicked. Half-deities! This is a half-deity demon. Damn it! How are we going to stop that? The Empire officials were close to breaking down. They could stop ordinary demon soldiers and demon generals with their advantage in Beast God Pass even if there were more of them. However, how were they supposed to stop half-deities? What distressed them the most was that after the first demon overlord came out, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one, in an instant, hundreds of demon overlords were up in the sky as they charged toward the Beast God Pass. Demonic might that covered every expanse of land pressed upon the Beast God Pass like a mountain. Oh my Beast God! So many half-deities? It's all over. We're dead meat. We can't compete with them at all. The Beast People Empire army, with over 1 billion in numbers, lost all of their morale. They could not fight one half-deity already, not to mention so many half-deities here. How were they supposed to survive? Gone. Beast People Empire is finished. The Beast Emperor's face turned pale as he limped onto the ground. His words of courage just had collapsed. He knew deep inside that there was no hope of winning against hundreds of half-deities, not to mention the endless demon army. One sentence, the Beast People Empire was finished. Kill! Hundreds of demon overlords charged at the gates of the Beast God Pass. Some spat red-hot lava, some spat white chili currents, and some spat gleaming wind blades. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After a round of offense, the 10 regiments of the Empire were either burnt into ashes or frozen into ice sculptures. In an instant, there was already a large number of casualties. Too powerful. They're way too powerful. We are just no match against them. At the sight of this scene, the remaining Empire army was shrouded in an endless feeling of despair, losing all hope and their willingness to fight. When facing such terrifying demon overlords, how could they have won? Even if the Beast God descended now, the chances of defeating these demon overlords were close to none. It's my fault. It's all my fault. The iron entered the Beast Emperor's soul. If I had submitted to the Meng Empire earlier, then it might not have turned out like this. I have failed the Beast People Empire. I have failed to protect all of my citizens.